Hey guys, JamesMCD Reviews here. Well, it's the beginning of a new week, which means it's time for another mind-melting episode of JamesMCD's Friday Nightmare. As you might remember from last week, Friday the 13th Part 4 was originally set to be the final chapter, but, it made money, so I'm sure we can work around, this whole thing. So in 1985, director Danny Steinman gave us Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. This one follows an aged Tommy Jarvis, still traumatized by the events of the last movie, going to a correctional rehab center, basically to help him adjust before re-entering society. But all seems to be brought to a halt when it appears that Jason comes back and starts murdering even more people. So Paramount had apparently hired Steinman against Frank Mancuso's wishes because of his history with doing sort of softcore porn, and his basically he had an eye for trashiness, and they wanted to up the gore and nudity levels to make sure that ticket sales weren't declining. And you can kind of see that, in this movie. It definitely feels a lot trashier and a lot more exploitative. There's 3 full scenes of just, graphic nudity. There's a lot more, blood and violence and everything like that. And it just feels kind of, senseless. It's like they had a really good, concept of, following adult Tommy Jarvis, but they didn't have 100% faith in it, so it's like, here, titties and death, that'll keep the kids' attention. Starting off with, there are things about this movie that I do like. For one thing, I will say the cast is a lot more, likable than some of the other ones. It's following in the footsteps of Chapter 4, where it's kind of trying to give the characters a little bit more depth beyond just, horny. I admit it is very surface level, admittedly, but there were some characters that I did genuinely feel bad for when they died, mainly the, sort of punk, goth girl who was, just listening to her music and had her headphones in the whole time. That scene, I was like, no, don't kill her. She was, the nice one. The kid, Reckless Reggie, played by Shavar Ross, he was really good. I really liked the scene with him and his older brother. I thought that was really nice and really funny. And of course, the standout, the main player, obviously, is Tommy Jarvis, played by John Shepherd. He was really good. He doesn't say much. I think he only has about 24 words in the entire movie, but he makes good use out of not saying much, and he does well with his facial expressions and his physical performance. You can tell that this is a man who has seen some shit. And apparently John Shepherd even worked or went to a mental institution as part of researching for this movie. And you can tell he got those mannerisms and the attitudes down really, really well. And I mean, the idea of this movie, the initial concept of following Tommy Jarvis into adulthood and seeing how that trauma has affected him and everything like that, it's a good concept on paper, but the thing that is so frustrating about this movie is not only do they kind of botch it in execution, but it seems like half the time they're just flat out not interested in following that plot line all the way through, because this movie gets so caught up in other plot lines and characters and everything like that, and it becomes so complicated and unfocused. It takes such an intriguing concept with such a compelling character, what Alice probably could have been in the series, in the after the first one, had they not killed her off at the beginning. But they take that and they just completely butcher it as the movie goes on. A good majority of the movie, Tommy Jarvis doesn't really get much to do. He has a couple of run-ins with a few of the patients at this institution, but a good majority of the movie is just following the other characters and then the other half of that is like the investigation of all these like murders going forward, and people assuming that Jason has come back somehow, even though he's been dead. And then when they do keep cutting back to the whole Tommy Jarvis stuff, it's like they're trying to play up this like connection between him and Jason, but it's like they don't really make it clear like what is supposed to be happening. Like they keep going back and forth on whether or not they want Tommy to be the new Jason, or like they want him and Jason to have some sort of, I guess, mental link or something, or if he just flat out wants vengeance because of what happened all those years ago. But then by the end of it, it doesn't even fucking matter, because Jason wasn't even the real Jason. It turns out to be one of the paramedics whose son got murdered, who took on the Jason persona as like vengeance, I guess. It both comes out of nowhere, but it's also like so obvious. Like the movie does everything in its power to throw you off the trail, while also making it blatantly clear that the paramedic did it. And it's just really, really poorly executed. And then by the end, I don't even know if the movie knows what it wants to be. Like with that whole like dream sequence in the hospital and the ending of the movie, it's just so bizarre and so nonsensical and everything like that. And like I said, it took such an intriguing concept and just completely butchered it. The movie also has like some really weird like editing inconsistencies. In fact, I even when I was looking up some of the like trivia for this movie on IMDb, I screenshotted something that I found really interesting. A New Beginnings editor, Bruce Green, had previously been an assistant editor to future Oscar-winning editor Michael Kahn on Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Temple of Doom. Kahn put his neck on the line for Green, offering to edit A New Beginning for free if the producers didn't like the job that Green did. And I feel like at that point, if this is the final like cut and it didn't go through like recuts and re-edits, then Kahn should have just took them up on that offer and edited the film himself for free, because like there are some really weird cuts and edits. Like there's a moment where they're driving down the street in the truck and it's playing like chase music, but it doesn't really indicate that any sort of chase is happening. It's not like Jason popped up and then it shows the truck driving by. It's just them driving to go visit Reggie's brother. So that was very bizarre. There are a lot of like weird cuts away from like action where like a kill will happen, it has like the big bombastic music, and it'll just cut to complete silence, like cut to the next scene. Like it does that quite a few times and it's jarring every single time. Yeah, so far I'm sure there are going to be worse ones as this series continues, but as of right now, this is probably the worst of the Friday the 13th movies. Because, like, the worst that I could say about the other ones were that they were just kind of the same and kind of boring and everything like that. Whereas this one, it was frustrating because it started off so strongly, and it had the potential to be a better movie than it actually was, and it just did not do any of that. So yeah, this one sucked. Going to my ranking, I would have to give this one a 2.5 out of 5. But anyway, that does it for another episode of Friday Nightmare. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you agree that it's one of the worst ones? Like I said, there are things I like about it, just I was just more frustrated by it than anything. But let me know all that stuff down below, and stay tuned tomorrow because I'll be taking a look at Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Until then, be sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you can stay updated on when I'm posting. Follow me on my social media, subscribe to my main channel, everything you need to know will be in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.